We live in a moment where it feels harder than ever to talk seriously with people across political lines. We assume motives, we fill in blanks, we judge people based on how they voted or what they post on social media. So in this episode, the final episode with this group of people before I start interviewing new folks, I asked people two questions. First, tell me a little bit about your political beliefs, your political affiliation. Second, I asked people, if you were to sit down with someone who seriously disagreed with you politically, someone who sees the world entirely differently than you do, what would you want them to know? What would you want them to understand so maybe they could get you a little bit better so that you yourself could feel understood? Their answers give us a rare look into what people wish the other side knew about them. Before the judgment, before the anger, before the shouting, what would you like other people to know so that you could seriously feel understood? Here are their answers.
I am not necessarily a Democrat and I'm not necessarily a Republican. Like I need people to know that like there are things on both sides that I disagree with and some things that I agree with, but you know, whatever. I don't believe in this two-party system. I think it's crazy. If I just sat with somebody for 5 minutes who's fundamentally different than me, I would say like, let's use these 5 minutes to find things that we both really love to do. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of things that I know that we could be so different that like, there's a lot of things that we're going to agree on. Right. So you're going to look at me and you're going to be like, okay, you're an immigrant. There's nothing what do you know about American culture? And I'm going to stump everything that you think you ever thought. I'm going to get you on every question that has to do with American pop culture, because that's where I love to live my life. I know the songs to, I know the words to like Willie Nelson songs. I know the words to Patsy Cline songs. I know the words to Metallica songs. I know like Bon Jovi. Give me something. We're going to find something that we have in common. I'm going to use this 5 minutes. And we're going to walk away from this 5 minutes, both of us being like, you know what? I had no idea that you loved Bon Jovi as much as like I do. Or, I don't know. There has to be something we have in common, for God's sakes. There has to be. That's what I utilize my 5 minutes. It's like walk away. Like we're not going to talk about things that like charge us like negatively, right? Let's talk about things that charge us positively.
The majority of my life, I felt like a Republican in practice, in policy. Your neighbors are not your enemies. This country is great. This country is where people want to be, and it is not as bad as it seems. This country is not nearly as bad as it seems. We have the freedom to do what we want. We have the freedom to be who we want to be. And I don't want people to lose sight of that. It scares me to no end that people feel like they're fighting for a team when I want somebody to fight for my kids and I want to be able to fight for somebody else's kids. Not physically. I don't think any rational human being, even soldiers, even people in war, unless you're an absolute psychopath, I think they would be ready for it. The majority of the people that I know would be ready for it, but I don't want us to get to a point where we have nothing left to fight for, both sides. Why would I fight for you if you're not going to fight for me, and vice versa? You know what I mean?
I remember being very happy and optimistic during the Obama years. There were a lot of things. Well, just his election. I watched that election. I watched those results come in live. I would want people to understand, right, like where the left is coming from, right? I would want to hear from them, what do you think about the left? Why are you so anti-left? Blah, blah, blah. And, what do you think the left is really pushing for? And then I would love to talk about what I actually value, right? And then get into, okay, right, here are the things that I want to get to, right? Here are the different policies that I tend to support because I think that would be a good way of getting there. And then I would love to hear justification, right, for like everything that's happening now and why you think either these good policies are good and why you think they would actually work. And then why some of this other stuff wasn't deal breakers. I'd also love to hear, like, what are your overall objectives, right? What are your high level apolitical goals for the country? Where do you want to get to? And then again, like, why do you think these policies are the best path there?
I mean, I felt genuinely hopeful November 5th, 2024. It finally felt like the country was speaking. You know, when you looked at the map and it was like totally red, for me, it felt like the country had spoken and they were not okay with a lot of the extreme things that were going on before. And they wanted to get back to some level of being a proud American, like being proud of your country. There's more that there's more that connects us than divides us. I just would assume as Americans that there's more that we have in common than not.
I've worn a lot of different hats politically over the years, right? I used to be very conservative when I was younger, very conservative. I think I've probably drifted farther to the left again in the last 5-10 years because of the same reasons other people have drifted farther to the left or farther to the right. Because I'm also poisoned by the internet. You know, I'm also living in my own echo chamber a little too much. I also get too caught up in the team politics of it all. And this is going to sound, it's just like I'm joking when I say this because it's going to be so sincere, but I love America. Like I love the country. I think America's an awesome country. I think we are as flawed as you can get. And I don't think there's any shame in admitting that, but I also think that we offer more opportunities. I think there's more good here. I think there's more opportunity for good and greatness. I think there is a beauty to the people in this country, in all regions of this country. That is just that I don't want to use the word sacred because I kind of don't like when we start throwing around religious terms with our.
I got you.
But it is something that is like precious. That is really precious. And I think that a lot of people would think, oh, well, you just hate America. Like you just think that all we do is wrong and everything is bad and nothing can get better. And you think that soldiers stink and the flag is dumb and yada, yada. I don't think that. I am incredibly proud to be an American. And I mentioned earlier, I'm a federal worker. I had to take that oath when I started, and I'm not a veteran like yourself. Although I respect the fact that you are. But when I took that oath, like that meant a lot to me. Like that was important to me. I had to, pledge, to protect the Constitution. Honestly, the one thing I want them to know is that I don't hate them. I'm not mad at them. I don't think they're idiots. I don't think they deserve punishment. I think that we can disagree on a political level, but I also think that the best way for us to square that circle is to talk. And let's have a conversation. Let's try to find some place where we can find some common ground. And damn it, and you know what that might be? It's talking about who wins the NFC East this year, right?
Yeah.
And starting from there. But finding ways to actually have, what I want to know from that person is, hey, what's important to you? I'm not talking about politics. Like, is it your family? Is it, are you concerned about your job? Do you have ill health that you want to take care of? Do you want to see your kids go to school? Are you worried about affording a new house? Like, let's talk about those types of things and start talking about what solutions look like. And the thing I will say also about Trump voters, from what I've seen, Trump is a populist. He does espouse working class values from what I am told. I think there's probably a lot of agreement, and a lot of the disagreement that comes up right now is bad marketing from both sides. I think a lot of us want the same things. We want affordable houses. We want healthcare. We want to make sure our Social Security is there for us when we retire. We want our kids to have better lives than us. So I think that there'd be a lot for us to talk about if we just throw the labels aside and just talk person to person.
I lean conservative. If I had to pick red or blue, I'd probably pick red. What I talked about earlier is that a lot of my decisions come from a very logical place. I am kind of weighing ones and zeros, X's and O's. It doesn't come from any sense of animosity or animus or negativity or anything like that, or any type of, not that my viewpoints even are this way, but kind of as a generalization, there's, no sense of like superiority or like ulterior motives to these things. Like this is just how what I see is like the fairest way to go about these things. And so that whatever it is that we're discussing, my viewpoint is going to come from what I think is a logically solid place.
I would describe myself as far left. Like I've been a member of the DSA for almost 20 years now, since 2008.
And just so folks know, DSA means, just so folks know,
the Democratic Socialists of America. Like your other guest said, we don't want to live in Stalinist dictatorships. We just want people to have equal access to things that are going to keep them alive, right? And we're not trying to take things away from everybody else. We're just trying to make sure people have because nobody is asked to be born. We're all just kind of here. So if everybody should just have access to the basic things they need to, have a life. Like I'm not here trying to make anybody's life worse just because somebody might have a different color skin or might use a different bathroom than they are. Like I really am trying to just give everybody the same opportunity. And I would give them, that Trump voter, all the same things I would give somebody else. I mean, when I'm active in DSA and stuff, like we're not just like, oh, we need to make sure we get Medicare, but only for lefties. No, we want everybody to have Medicare, right? I want somebody in like deep red, like Kern County or whatever, to have access to health insurance and healthcare, just like I would over here. Just like I want somebody in Alabama to have access to, again, education, contraceptives and stuff, even if they hate me for giving that to them. Right? I'm not here trying to take things away from people who don't have anything. I'm here trying to take things away from people who don't need that and are excessively and obscenely hoarding wealth. So it's not that I'm trying to take away 40% of what everybody has, or even 1% of what everybody has. It's 1% of what the 1% has. So the 99% can do things like go to the dentist.
Like I would consider myself probably a classical liberal with some libertarian kind of underpinnings, and I think that puts me into like in our political spectrum. I think that would probably put me into a centrist right position. I've also realized over the years that is not a perfect system, right? Like libertarianism doesn't lend itself to dealing with negative externalities. It just doesn't, right? Another way that I kind of shaped that was Winston Churchill said this one time. He said, there should be, living in a civilized society, there should be a lower level that we just don't allow anyone to drift beyond. And I think that there's a lot to that, right? I don't like the idea of a super strong welfare state, but I think it's important that we don't allow our neighbors to live, below that threshold of civilization.
I mean, I would consider myself, a democratic socialist. So I would say I'm pretty far on the left. I'm registered as a Democrat. Yeah, I mean, my goal would be to, also, a two-way street. Like I would want to learn a lot about them, and I would want to, express my views, but also, explain my upbringing, my where my perspective comes from. I think I would hope to be able to what's the word? Diffuse maybe some misunderstandings or misinterpretations or of what some general left wing or social democratic ideals are, and mostly finding common ground of I think a lot of us want the same thing ultimately of being able to live free and healthy and unburdened by a lot of the financial constraints that we find ourselves in. It's not this vision of some authoritarian everyone has to give up their wealth and their assets, and we're all going to live in, these like Soviet style apartment blocks and like essentially live under the thumb of some repressive regime. It's really more about, providing just a basic, strong standard of living.
I grew up in Chicago. I grew up in the heart of the city, and probably what is the most liberal area of Chicago. Kid of the 60s, right? I mean, I was very small when a lot was going on. You had people like Laurie Steinem and, Ruth Bader Ginsburg and these women who were really sort of fighting for Hillary Clinton, could say, fighting for women's rights. There's a lot of that protesting stuff. It is stunning to me that young women have fewer rights than I had when I was 17. I don't know. I think it has to step away from like the political divides and be more about a personal story, kind of. And I don't know what that means or what exactly I would say, but I think it has to be about how the decisions that have been made have a real impact on kind of your quality of life and your day-to-day and the future. But I don't think most people care about the future. I think most people care about just kind of what is happening to them now. So it's like, how do I tell that story about the events that have happened in my life, or a event that has happened in my life? I think it has to be personal, because that is where you start to bring it into something that's real rather than something that's kind of out there.
Nobody wins if none of us win, I guess. Okay. Is that what I want to say? Yeah. Like, me winning at their expense isn't really winning, I want to bring everybody up. It's not a win or lose. It's like either all or none, I guess.
Okay.
Like I have their best interests at heart, I guess.
This is the last episode that I'm going to run with this group of people. Starting in the new year, I'll have new episodes with a new group of folks. The thing is, now that I'm 11 interviews deep into this 2 people per state at least project, I started to take a few lessons. I started to notice a few patterns, a few themes from the folks that I've spoken with. The first thing that I've noticed is the degree to which each of the individuals that I've spoken with and each of the interviews that I've had, the people that I've spoken with are approaching this set of discussions in good faith. Each of the individuals, right, left, center, that I've spoken with, no one's trying to dunk on anyone, no one's trying to dunk on me. They're all trying to articulate their views in a way that is the most honest that they can. And each of them, I think, while I've disagreed with them and agreed with them at various points in the discussion, each of them is approaching this set of political beliefs that they have from a good place, as I said earlier on, with a good head and a good heart. In each discussion, I felt like I learned something of substance from each person. If you've been following along, I hope that perhaps the thing that you've taken most from this set of discussions is the degree to which each person, no matter where they sit on the political spectrum, right, left, or center, each of them is just trying to find their way through a complicated political landscape and trying to think about the United States and the world and our future in a way that makes sense to them. No one's trying to harm the United States. No one's personal belief set is out there with them thinking, I want something bad for the U.S. Each of them, every single person that I've spoken with, I've learned something from. And each of them has a sense that there's a better path forward, and we're all just trying to find it wherever we sit on the political spectrum. I hope that you felt the honesty and the decency from each one of these individuals. I hope this set of interviews gave you a certain amount of hope for the future of the U.S. Because my sense is that if you got all these people together, put them around a table, they'd have a good discussion. And actually, these kinds of folks, if you sat them down and actually listened to them in a serious, thorough way, they'd have some good ideas that have some good perspectives on how we can heal divides in the United States among the public. And candidly, furthermore, they'd probably have some pretty darn good policy ideas that, if listened to, might well help some things. My name's David Combs, and this is Nobody's Side.